Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the A-List Podcast. I'm Kwani Lunis, as always, joined by A. Blakely and Gary Washburn. How you two doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Syracuse Orangemen are 3-0. Celtics season about to start. Life is bueno.
Literally no one asked about Syracuse. Gary, how are you doing?
Good. Everything's good. Ready to go.
I'm glad to hear that. But despite the fact that you two are doing well, the Celtics did actually just get some not great news recently. Adrian Wojnarowski just reported that Robert Williams is undergoing a surgery in his left knee, which will have an expected recovery time of 4 to 6 weeks. Sorry to start with the bad news, people, but what's your initial reaction to that report?
Welcome to the world of Time Lord. This is going to be how it's going to be with him. I mean, I think, we focus on the talent and the potential and the upside and all that, but he's at that point in his career where you can't help but think that his health is going to be an issue for the rest of his career, because it has been up to this point. And if you're the Celtics, you almost have to hedge your bets sort of on his availability. So don't be surprised if we see in the next year or two the Celtics really try to make a play for an impact big man, knowing that Robert Williams, as talented as he is, he's someone that at this point you're not really sold on his availability, because again, that old saying, one's best ability is their availability, and that is damn sure not the case when it comes to Robert Williams.
Yeah, it's the timing is curious, considering we're right at the beginning of training camp. And was he having knee issues all summer? Did he tweak something while he was working out? So we don't know any details at this point. I want to give credit to Sean Devaney from The Heavy, who actually was the first that I saw the story online, who broke that story about Robert Williams and the surgery. But it's a concern because now you're going to bring him back slow. So you're talking about 6 weeks. So you're talking about the beginning of November or early November, maybe mid-November, 10, 12 games into the season. Now you need a backup center. You're going to throw Luke Cornett out there. How long is Robert going to be out? You're not, then he's going to be on a minutes limit and all that. I mean, it's just a process. You were hoping, I think Celtics fans are hoping like, okay, this was the summer. Once he got over the meniscus thing, that he was just going to stay in bubble wrap, remain healthy, and come to camp 100% with no issues. And now here we go in terms of his issues again. So this is curious to me that he needs a scope unless they knew, unless he was trying to do it without surgery and they were like, no, or something. He should have had this, if anything, right after the season. But, now here we go again. Do they need a capable big man? Do they need to bring somebody in? Are they just going to give it away early and just play without a lack of depth because they don't want to bring on another contract? Like all this now comes into play.
Yeah. And Gary, along those lines, Gary, it makes sense even more so now why Brad has been reluctant to fill that last spot. Because again, they may have, for all we know, Brad may have been looking at the guys coming to camp thinking, yep, we're going to add another wing so that they can give Jalen and Jayson a little bit of assistance. But now with this, we don't know whether this changes the calculus that they're using to determine who's going to get that last roster spot or how they're going to fill that. Fiondu becomes a guy that you got to give a lot serious thought to as far as that last spot. And how does that impact, some of those wings that they're bringing in who, have NBA experience and can play in this league, but you got to go by they're in a situation now where the Celtics are moving perilously close to being in a need to add bases versus a wanting to provide more depth. If Robert's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks, and as Gary pointed out, 4 to 6 weeks, it probably going to be a little bit longer than that because they don't want to rush him back. So Luke Cornett for 4 to 6 weeks as your backup big or your first big off the bench, I don't know if that's going to cut it. Gary knows it's not going to cut it.
It's not going to cut it.
And we've talked about depth this entire offseason, and you have Gallo now injured. The front court is looking really very thin at this point. So what is the solution? What does Brad Stevens do before we hit October?
wings, and more wings. You got to go small. He's got to go small. I mean, they're going to play more small ball than I think they wanted to, because at the end of the day, when you look at the lineups that Udoka typically plays, he's looking to play the 5 guys that play best together in his mind. And that's probably going to be lineups where you're going to have some combination of Jayson, Jalen, and another small guy, whether it's Smart, whether it's Brogdon, out there with maybe one big. Guys are going to have to play bigger. I think you may see Tatum play, a little bit more at that 4 spot than we've seen before. 1, because he has a potential mismatch there, but 2, they may not have a choice in terms of having quality guys on the floor that can do things. So this is a bigger deal than I think most people realize, because it has such a major domino effect on not only in terms of roster construction, but also the roster lineups that Ime has to work with and how he's going to utilize them.
Yeah, I mean, I think now you have to consider a couple of guys that you might not have considered before. I would consider DeMarcus Cousins.
Dwight Howard, your boy.
Yeah, Dwight maybe not as much because he's very offensively limited, although he's more of an upgrade defensively. So if you're looking for kind of a defensive replacement, you can bring in Dwight, but is Dwight going to have that influence in the locker room? Do you need him all season? All that. So that's something you got to think about. Or DeMarcus, who's more of an offensive threat, a little bit more toughness. But I'm sorry, if I'm the Celtics, I want a proven player. Luke Cornett has not proven he can play a backup center for any NBA team. He's just kind of hung around, and it's not, we'll give him a shot, but it just seems like a real shot, just a real long shot. This is a real kind of stretch here. You're trying to win games early. You're not trying to start out 10 and 12. You're not trying.
They did that. They know what that movie looks like. They ain't trying to make a sequel.
You're not trying to struggle. This is you're trying to hit dudes in the mouth to begin the season. You were trying to get off to a fast start, and teams are not going to take it easy on you. So to me, you got to ramp up. To me, I would think DeMarcus, or you can get like a low budget Robert Williams, like a young guy who like a guy who always comes to mind is like Norvell Pelly, who's a real jumping jack who's bounced around. Like if you want to do that route, you can get like a younger version of a kind of a pick me up, like a patchwork big. And then we'll go from there. But other than that, like you got to try something, because I just don't think you can just go and, hey, Luke, okay, well, now you're going to play, because you're not going to play Al 35 minutes a game. And then so you're going to have to go small with Grant at center at times, and, maybe even Jason at center. Like you're going to have to go small, or you're going to have to use some Luke. I'm not comfortable with the latter.
Well, I was going to.
Hey, you ball small, man. You put him at center. Damn. That's Jordan Classic small right there. Damn.
I think it's actually a perfect time to pause and give some love to Indeed. I feel as though they're the perfect sponsor for us, because every week we're continuing to talk about how much the Celtics need help with hiring, and the joke's getting old. But Indeed, if you do have a small business, they're definitely the place that you need to go to hire for your business. No one knows small businesses like yours, and Indeed can actually help you be successful at doing that. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place, one website. It makes it super easy. So instead of spending hours on multiple different sites, you can just go to Indeed.com and you'll find the candidate with the right skill set. And they actually have a powerful hiring partner. They are a powerful hiring partner that can actually help you just do just that. With their instant match, over 80% of employees get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data in the US. So all you have to do is start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/A-list. You can claim that $75 credit. All you have to do is go to Indeed.com/A-list. Indeed does the work for you. When you pay to boost that job, their instant match actually shows you candidates whose resumes fit what you're looking for immediately. So again, you're cutting out a lot of time. All you have to do is go to Indeed.com/A-list. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire, you need Indeed. So we started with some negativity on the podcast. I'm going to flip the script. We're going to talk about some positive things, something we can look forward to. Believe it or not, opening day for the Boston Celtics is less than a month away, which means Celtics Media Day is coming up this upcoming Monday. So from you two, who is the player you're most looking forward to hearing from after this summer hiatus?
For me, it'd be Jaylen Brown.
Okay. What do you want to hear? About the underwater workouts?
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't only want to hear about the whole trade rumors and his reaction. I want to hear about his reaction to the Robert Sarver situation. I want to hear about, I know he's done some interesting things this summer and tried to better himself as not only a player, but as a man. Yep. I just want to hear his adventures because he stays quiet. You know, he's underground. He was doing that underwater stuff, but, you know, Jaylen kind of keeps it low key. And I just want to hear some of his thoughts and opinions. Another year, you know, he's about to be 26 next month, so he's maturing. And I want to see his thoughts on the team, the season, the rest of the NBA, the Sarver situation, and, you know, some of the other stuff, the player association things that he's involved in. So I'm really intrigued to talk to Jaylen.
Yeah, I think Jaylen's a guy everyone wants to hear from because we've heard a little bit, you know, kind of little, you know, sprinkles here and there from Tatum this summer. So we got some idea of where his head's at, you know, at the end of last season. I mean, heading into this one. But Jaylen, as Gary pointed out, I mean, he's been Mr. Undercover most of the summer. Very little has been said from him other than an occasional 3-letter tweet or, you know, just the rumor mill with him and KD. So he's the guy that everyone, I think, is really kind of angling to hear from. And the thing I've always liked about Jaylen is that, you know, you don't have to agree with what he's thinking or saying, but you respect the place that it's coming from. Most of what he says is well thought out. There's a deliberate, intentional nature about him when he says things. He's getting to that point. Every now and then, you'll know that he's saying something to spark a reaction or to just educate you in a way and like give you insight that you maybe didn't have before. We learned a lot about his relationship with Kyrie Irving after Kyrie left. And I suspect that he's going to get peppered with questions about the Kevin Durant trade rumors. But I suspect that at some point as the season progresses and we get deeper into the season, he's going to slip. And he's going to be honest and candid about his feelings about that. I don't care what Brad and Ime tell you about trade rumors. It's not a big deal. There's a part of him that's going to have some kind of feeling about that is going to, even on the smallest of levels, be in his feelings a little bit about that. And the thing that I've really liked about Jaylen throughout his career is whenever he's been like questioned and there's skepticism about what he can do, he's been really good about channeling that the right way. You know, when he first came into the league, everyone talked about how great an athlete he was. And what did Jaylen do? He worked on becoming a better shooter. He worked on becoming someone who could finish around the rim. He became a better defender. I still think he can be a lot better defensively than he is, but there's been progress every step along the way when there has been a noticeable knock against him or a noticeable slight against him. And that to me, that's the sign of a guy who is about that business, who will find some way to use all this Kevin Durant to Boston energy, whether it's true or not. He's going to use that to galvanize himself in his game and take his game to another level. I expect this year.
And to both of your points, he is, interestingly enough, very active on social media where he'll retweet stuff. His Instagram, he posts a lot. Most recently, he was with Ye because, as you know, he's now a Donda athlete and, well, a Yeezy athlete, whatever the case may be. But also to Gary's point about like off the court stuff, he's been working with MIT with their bridge program, which I'm very curious to hear about as well. Like, how has that development been? What exactly does that look like? How is it becoming implemented in the city of Boston? So he's just the most interesting Celtic when you think about well-roundedness, and obviously on the floor he's very talented, but the fact that he does have this player advocacy, social advocacy, which I think is very important. I think I'm with the two of you that I'm also interested to hear what he has to say about his summer.
But adding to that, though, right behind him is Robert Williams.
I mean, if they let him talk.
like, bruh, what the hell happened?
When did you know you had to get a surgery?
I mean, I've got so many questions for that dude. Like, how did we get, how
did we get here? Nobody's supposed to be here. Sorry.
Is that an R&B song?
Yes,
it is, Gary.
Gary got one of my references.
I got it, Kwani, but I was pretending as if I
didn't
get it.
Kwani?
I don't know the name of the song. I just know all the words. You know, fun fact, well, not a great fact. I'll know an entire song, but not know the name of it. I know that's embarrassing, but it'd be like that.
She heard that song. Auntie was playing that song, Gary, and she just.
I got you. Hold on.
It was Deborah Cox or something, right?
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Well done, Gary.
Wait a minute, Kwani. Like, weren't you like 5 in that song?
Why did I even open up this wormhole?
That's like a 90s song.
I'm not supposed to know songs that were made before I was born? Is that the argument?
Pretty much so.
Wow.
That's okay.
I see how it is.
Way to show your musical knowledge, Kwani. Forget about Gary.
Right.
Knowledge.
I'm also used to interested in hearing from Jayson.
Yeah, of course.
You know, what's he been up to? Obviously, he's been in the streets and stuff, but what's he done working on his game? Where has he at been the last? You know, he went to Duke. He's been to LA. So, you know, as the leader now, unquestioned leader, what does he feel like? You know, is he going to be more vocal with us? Is he going to, you know, what's going on in his head? You know, entering a very important, his 5th year now. So to me, I'm definitely intrigued to hear from both of them, but Jayson also, because I think Jayson, you know, I think he's definitely become more vocal, and I think he's gonna have a lot to say.
I think the confidence is growing too. And obviously you take it with a grain of salt when you listen to people do interviews, but I think over the years, he's still very quiet, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel as though we've noticed, like you said, him become not only more vocal, but a little more confident in his ability, to the point where hopefully that starts to continue to translate on the floor, because there's obviously only so much talking to do before people are like, all right. Because at first it was, he's not talking enough. Now I think he's comfortable with the media, understands how it goes, but is also hopefully in the offseason working on his game.
It should be like that, though. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
If you think about it, there's only a handful of guys that you can say in the NBA can kind of hold their own with him or really limit him. There just aren't that many. And he's what, 19 still? I mean,
he's never growing up.
He's never growing up. But you love the fact that Jayson is, I think, just kind of growing into his manhood and realizing that most nights when he steps on the floor, there ain't nobody better than you. Mm-hmm. And to me, when you understand that power, you start to learn how to flex that power. And I think part of that flex is flapping your gums, letting cats know they can't guard you. I mean, if I'm Jayson Tatum and I got little Patrick Beverly trying to talk smack to me, I'm dropping 20 in the third quarter, that dude. And I'm gonna let him know. I'm gonna give him his own medicine because I'm nice like that. And he's not. Tatum is growing to being that dude. It's good to see.
I don't know if he'll ever be a real trash talker on the floor.
Oh, Gary,
I think he is. I think he's like a low-key one where you
he's the sneaky.
That's the thing. You're like, wait, really?
I think he makes gestures. I don't think he just like is all in your face. I think he does it by subtle gestures.
Yeah, like he'll score 3 in a row and he'll look up at the scoreboard and look at you.
It's trolling in a sense.
Yes.
I don't want Jayson to be anything outside of himself, but I do want him to.
I feel like he'd be whispering trash talk, though.
Yeah.
He'd definitely be whispering trash talk.
And I love that. I hope he is. I
think he needs to be. I want him to be more of a leader, more forceful about what happens with his team this season, especially since such an important season, be completely locked in and focused. All of the above. Is he completely healthy? We have to ask him that, after the mysterious wrist injury that he revealed and all that, and his shoulder, the stinger. So I think he's got a lot to talk about, and he should have a lot to talk about.
That's fair. Well, as we're talking right now, the Celtics have waived Bruno, so we'll see what. I don't know how to say his last name. Sherrod, you got a
I'm not telling y'all.
Guy?
That's my son.
Caboclo. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one that we still need to get a DNA test on. So that's a little update.
Don't need to do that now. He ain't on the team.
He's not my son.
Hey, I don't know that dude.
Nah, he don't know
that dude.
That's funny. But recently in the Boston Globe, one of your colleagues, Gary, talked to Wyc Grousbeck of the Boston Celtics, and he said to Brad that he can do whatever it takes to get Brett better. We see that the Celtics just waived one guy. Maybe that means they open up a spot for another. But do we believe Wyc? Is he really willing to let Brad Stevens do whatever it takes to win?
I think that no. I think that Wyc. I mean, these owners are all competitive, and he knows very close with Joe Lacob, who was a co-owner, part owner, minority owner of the Celtics before he bought the Warriors. And I'm sure he saw the celebrations. There was trash talk, all that between owners. He sees them at the, governor's meeting. Like, that gets under his skin. He wants to win a chip. He wants to beat Lacob. He wants to have a championship, another championship. It's been now 14 years. It'll be 15 years if they win next year. That's not a long. That's everybody talks about. It was 22 years. Remember, between the 86 and the 08 So we're on our way to 22 years here. Are Celtics fans going to wait till 2030? Like, they, as much as that team seems like it's not all that long ago, it was all that long ago. I mean, what was Kwani? 11th grade when they won a championship?
Always something. Every episode should just be like, how old was Kwani when this happened?
How old was Kwani when this was going down? 2008, Kwani was you in 10th grade, 9th grade? Up at, Lord of Angels Catholic School in, Newark, New Jersey, or wherever you were.
The funny part was
Orange, boy. East Orange.
Huh?
Lord of Orange. But I did go to high school in Newark, so you're a little spot on.
Yeah, so, so to me, I think Wyc wants to win. I think, he's ready. I think he got a taste of it going back to the championship last year. So I believe what he says. We'll see what happens. So obviously now, with them waving Caboclo, my main man, I was hoping to see him and hoping to talk to him. I feel kind of bad for Bruno.
I'm good. I'm good.
I feel kind of bad.
I didn't want to face that reality.
Yeah, you are the father. I didn't, but obviously it means they're making some kind of move because remember they haven't even announced like Jake Layman yet. They haven't. I don't know if they've announced officially. So they're making some shuffling moves. Obviously, they're creating some space because they wouldn't have done this unless they have somebody in mind. So let's see what happens over the next few days.
I'm all in. I think Wyc is willing to cut whatever check needs to be cut if it's believed that will put them over the top. I think they're that close in their minds to winning a championship. They need to win. But here's the issue now, though, with Danilo's injury, with Robert's injury, with the desire to bring Al along slowly. It's harder to. I think there's a harder case to make that this team can come out like gangbusters and just take over the East and just run away with it. Because they're going to have to play smaller and they're going to have to basically have guys that can play up a position. Because as Gary pointed out, Luke Cornett as your first big off the bench is a little bit scary to me. If you're talking about a championship caliber team. Now, if you want to go back to when Brad Stevens took over as the head coach of the Celtics back in 2013, if Luke Cornett is my first big off the bench, we know where we at. Mm-hmm. We are in the lottery. We're trying to sniff our way out of the lottery. That's Luke's, no disrespect to Luke, but he's just not what you would look for in an ideal first big off the bench for a championship caliber team. He's an NBA player. He's just not that type of impact NBA player. And that's really where the Celtics are at now. They've got to find somebody who can help get them over the hump. And, it may very well be a situation where they circle back and say, well, Carmelo Anthony don't look so bad now. We can play him as a small ball big in some capacity. So the Celtics, they definitely have to look they have to open up the options out there a little bit wider than I think they probably would want to, because they have to, in some way, shape, or form, address their front line beyond what they have already on the roster.
Gary, you mentioned Wyc being around other owners. The first thing I thought of, and Sherrod and I were featured in a picture that I don't know if this picture is going to be used on a billboard, but he's also a co-owner of Syncoro with Beanie Bus, and of course the great Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan, not Michael B. Jordan. But I think that could play a role in it too. When you think
never met Michael B. Jordan, why?
I know she didn't, Gary. We knew she didn't mean him.
He couldn't even be in that conversation. Come on now.
Exactly.
Michael B. Be not in this conversation. Be not in this conversation.
Let's move on with Michael Jordan, the real Michael Jordan.
Be on your merry way, because we're not talking to you.
Yeah.
But yes, I think being around those great, obviously the Michael Jordan, but also just like a Lakers owner of these two franchises are now competing to see who will continue to be the GOAT in the franchise. I mean, the league. I think that's another conversation you think about when it's just like the amount of people that you're around on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one, we haven't really talked. I think Gary kind of touched on the whole, it had been 22 years before they won the last title.
I didn't even think about that.
That means they've won one title in the last 36 years.
That's
I mean, you tout yourself as like, the greatest franchise in NBA history, and you got one chip in 36 years.
The Lakers have won 5.
Yeah.
But that's a really good conversation, though. But that's a good conversation. Like, how long can we count how many rings your franchise has versus the recency bias of how recently were you good? Because kids nowadays, we make the jokes about how I wasn't around, but like, I wasn't around for the 86 Celtics. So like, how would I see them as a dynasty if I'm looking at a team like the Warriors or even like the more recent Lakers of actually being a little more consistent than the Celtics?
You talking about Lakers, you could talk about Miami, you can talk about San Antonio. I mean, there's a number of teams that this generation of NBA fans look at as a dynasty more so than the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
The Celtics, they're obviously people know them from a historical standpoint, but that's just it. It's historical. It's not relevant to what's happening now. I don't think the Celtics have that same cachet with a lot of fans in this day and age that they have with an older sect of fans who recognize and realize that they've been a really good franchise for, a large part of the NBA life cycle. But if you're looking at the last 35, 40 years, last 35 years, they've got one chip. That's it.
That's it.
And for those of us who remember that year, they damn near didn't get out of the first round. The Hawks took them to the brink. Al Horford and young Al Horford, they took them to the brink. So, I mean, it's one title in 35, 36 years. It's not great.
Well, this is a perfect segue because another quote in that article that I mentioned in the Boston Globe was, and anyone who asks me what I think about the team, I'm saying I don't want to overrate us. And of course, there's always going to be some kind of rating when you get to the NBA Finals. But what do you two think? Is this Celtics team overrated?
I think a lot to be put on them. And I think after when they added Rodney Gallinari, it might have been justified, but I don't think they're head and shoulders over anyone in the East. They're one of the group that can win the East. I'll give them that. Them, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami, and maybe Cleveland. And we'll see about Brooklyn, but that's like 7 teams. So do I think that they'll finish in the top 4 seeds? Yes. Is it like a straight up easy, if they're not, could they be 5th seed? Yep. Remember the year that the East was like 4 games separated the top 6 teams or something? It was like 4 or 5 games. It could be like that. It could be complete close horse race where, The winner of the East has 59 wins, and the 6th seed has 52 wins. Like we're talking about small little margins of error, 1 or 2 key games, losing at the buzzer here. Like, so the Celtics got to take care of business, and they lost a lot of close games last year. But to say, this team is going to be just cruising in the East, they ain't cruising nowhere. They ain't cruising in no Thunderbird, driving the streets. They ain't cruising nowhere, okay? They're going to have to earn every bit of it, because you look at the East, and the only team in the East I think is going to be bad is Indiana, okay? Let's look at the East. Toronto, always hard, tough, plays hard. Washington got talent with Bradley Beal and those guys. Orlando's young and up and coming.
I mean, New York's still going to New York, though.
There's the Knicks, but like Detroit, Sherrod's Detroit Pistons,
yep.
They're going to be they
coming.
Yes, like you look at the East, and you're like, okay, what team is this really in rebuild? Okay, Indiana is about it. Chicago, we don't know about Lonzo Ball, but they're going to be, they got star power with DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, and Zach LaVine. Like, no game is going to be easy. There are going to be some games where teams are tired off of back-to-back. The Celtics are going to play well, but to think that the league, especially the East is all leveled up. There are not teams in the East. There isn't a bunch of teams that like Utah's, rebuilding. San Antonio's rebuilding. That's the West. Like, there are teams in the West that are like, okay, let's take a step back here and build. The East, I said one team, the Pacers. That's it. The rest of the East, it's going to be a battle every night for the Celtics in the East.
It's been a long time coming for the East, too. I feel like we've always talked about the West being the stronger conference, but this year, to your point, every game's a circle on your calendar type game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I see the season playing out looking like one of those Olympic swim meets where there's like 1 second that separates 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's going to be a photo finish. I mean, to me, I think the last like 2-3 weeks of the season are going to be crazy interesting, because you're going to have teams who are going to have to decide, well, we can rest our guys, but damn, we might drop down to 6 or 7. Because it may be, I think it's going to be that close where like there'll be 2 or 3 games separating 1 through 6. And that, to me, is scary for a team like Boston, because, again, where you had everyone thought the Celtics were a smidge better than most everyone else in the East. Just a little bit. But when you take Robert missing at least a month, when you take Danilo basically missing most, if not all of the season, that's huge. I think you could probably absorb one of those blows and still be pretty close to where you're going to be record-wise at the end of the day. But losing 2 guys in the front court who have such a unique ability like those two. Robert, easily the most athletic big you have. Danilo, the best stretch big that you have, at least in terms of scoring. Al Horford is a better overall player, but Danilo is a better scoring stretch big, I think, than Al. Just because he's just a natural shooter, whereas Al converted himself into a perimeter shooter. But the point is this. Those losses are going to make it extremely difficult for Boston to get off to the kind of start that they wanted to. And they know in their heart of hearts, they need to in order to get back to the finals. Whenever anyone with that team, whether it was Brad, whether it was Ime, Grant, Tatum, they all talked about the importance of getting off to a good start this year. Every single damn interview they did, they talked about that. So that's something that they're all thinking about. What they're dealing with today, with no Danilo and Robert out for at least a month, it's going to make that goal a very difficult reality for them to create.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the Eastern Conference, and our favorite guy, Kyrie Irving, it looked like a Twitch stream or some kind of podcast or something. And he basically said that watching the young guys that he watched grow up basically helped watch grow up. I would say watch grow up. He said he helped them grow up, whatever. But he was saying how humbling of an experience it was to get 4-0'd by the Boston Celtics. But he also said that it was meant to happen and that they'll be back. I'm talking about the Nets, of course. So do you agree? Will they be back? Is this enough motivation for Kyrie and KD and the Nets to rally back to the playoffs and beat the Celtics.
See, here's the thing. They've got obviously some talent, but they've got some major. To me, there's two major question marks with them. Mm-hmm. Team chemistry. And by team, I'm not just talking about the guys on the court. I'm talking about the guys on the court and the damn coach. The coach who your best player said, you know what?
Don't need.
Yeah, we don't need him. And that, to me, that dynamic is going to be an issue. And the other one, the big one, is Ben Simmons. What Ben Simmons are you going to get? Are you going to get a new, improved, ready to ball out Ben Simmons? Or are you going to get that dude who shrinks like saran wrap around the basket when somebody is near him to defend? Mm-hmm. Is he going to do because the lasting image that we all have of Ben Simmons is at the end of the playoff game, he's got a layup and he passes to Matisse Thybulle instead of shooting because that defensive stalwart known as Danilo Gallinari was right behind him and he was afraid he's going to get fouled. It's going to be, he needs to get back on the court so people can get that bad taste out of their mouth about who he is. But I think Brooklyn's going to be good, but I don't think they'll be great because they've got so many questions that I just don't think they're going to be able to hit the ground running and answer in an affirmative way. Ben Simmons, for example, I think he'll have some ups and he'll have some downs. But at the end of the day, he'll be a very good player. But I don't think that's going to be enough for them to get over the hump and be the last team standing in the East.
Yeah, I think Kyrie understands that this is probably the most pivotal year of his career. There's just so much negativity. I think CBS Sports ranked him as the 10th best point guard in the NBA.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and, the people ahead of him, Ja, I think someone ranked Drew Holiday ahead of him. Like, woo! Those are like –
Slander.
Yeah, but those are useful players. Those dudes show up every night. I think Kyrie understands his reputation is taking a hit, and he might – be against that, or he might not agree with the assessment and think, hey, I'm just being Kyrie, man. Like, this is, I got every reason to believe what I want to believe, but the league is starting to lose faith in you. Fans start to lose faith in you. So he's got to deliver this year. He's got to be 65-plus game, no drama, dropping buckets, dribbling like the Globetrotters. Kyrie Irving, he's got to be that guy because now he's playing for his life in the league because he still would be a valuable player. He just turned 30, so he's still relatively young. He's got some years left, but like his years as a max player, his years as a frontline franchise cornerstone, those days are counting down. And teams will be like, man, Kyrie, you got mad talent. You can dribble the ball. You're brilliant when you're on the court, but you too much of a headache, man. I need something more stable. And I'll take someone with less talent, with more stability and availability. So
you're saying
got to prove that he can't be typical normal Kyrie. He can't be Boston Kyrie. He's got to be a special Cleveland Kyrie, and play as many games as he can. It's got to be a different guy than we've seen. And like you mentioned about Ben Simmons, same thing, a different guy than we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, because I think his reputation, his status in the league, all that is on the line. Another bad year, he'll be a free agent. Teams, somebody will sign him, but they ain't paying $30 million for him. So it all depends on, this is a big year for him. And I think the Nets have talent. And like you said, Sherrod, they've got to figure out what to do and how to approach the Steve Nash situation, but they got, Joe Harris coming back from injury, Nick Claxton re-signed. They brought in TJ Warren. They brought in Royce O'Neal. They got pieces. So let's see how Nash and those guys put it all together to try to make a winning club. And then obviously Durant, and who knows where his head is.
65 games, no drama. Hell no, Gary.
Drama.
If you get one out of those two, that's a success. If you can get him to give you one of those two, you are winning. Both? No. I would say that the 65 games is more likely than the no drama. Which to me is too bad because to me the no drama should be the easier thing to manage, but that's why he can't. When was the last time Kyrie had a year where there was no drama? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but I know that Kyrie, ability-wise, can still dominate. I would love to see him, really take take exception to that 10th best point guard and go out and absolutely destroy the 9 cats ahead of him, or at least put himself back into that top 2-3 conversation, which is where, if we're talking strictly talent at that position, that's where he belongs.
I have a really important question for you, too.
Oh, gosh. She can't even get the question out, Gary. She knows
it's not even that deep, but is it time for the Celtics and Jae Crowder to be reunited? As you know, he's been with the Phoenix Suns since 2020. He's been coach under Monty Williams, coach of the year. He's been a pretty important part of their finals run 2 years ago. So what do we think? Is it time?
What you got, Gary?
Okay, so I think I like Jay a lot. I think I would bring him back here in a minute.
Yeah,
but it would have to be a trade. He's under contract,
which reportedly the Suns are interested in a trade. For the record, that's why I brought that question up.
The Suns are considering.
Yeah.
But who are you going to trade that matches salaries? You'd have to trade like Grant, or you'd have to trade. You're not going to get them for pennies, and you're over the cap. So it would have to sacrifice somebody in order, mix it one of those trade exceptions or whatever. Try to finagle a trade exception or something, but you would have to maneuver to do that. I don't know if they can. I think they should bring him back. He loved being a Celtic. They kind of put him on the map as an NBA player. It's the reason why he still wears 99, the number 99. I think he loved being a Celtic. I think he loved his time here. And they shipped him to Cleveland in that damn, Kyrie trade, and then he bounced around and he got to Phoenix. But I think just his toughness, his defense, his ability to hit the three, yes. And he's still 30. I think he's 32 now. So he's not too old. Yeah, I would do it if you could sacrifice not too much for him.
Well, I know if Gary could do it, the first person that he would put out there is Derek White. But the money don't match. I think Derek makes significantly more than Jay.
Yes, very significant.
Just a little bit more.
If the money matched, though, Gary would absolutely be we would probably be reading about that trade in the Boston Globe.
Yep.
He would make it a trade just by reporting that it happened.
Yep.
I ain't trying to tell Brad how to do his job, but if I was Brad, I would go get Jae Crowder, and I was send Derek White to beautiful Phoenix, Arizona.
Is that how Gary sounds?
I mean, if it were me, that's what I would do. If it were me.
I'm just saying, though.
But I'm just saying. No, Jay would be a great fit. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I think to Gary's point, Jay's at that point in his career where I don't think he's as focused on the whole come up and prove himself and all that. He just want to win.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. This dude had a chance to win a chip in Miami, came up short, had a chance to win a chip in Phoenix, came up short. So he clearly is in chip hunting mode and would ideally want to be somewhere where he could win a chip. And if you look at the Celtics roster, he'd be the perfect addition if they had all their expected pieces in place. But with Robert's injury and with Danilo's injury, I'm not sure. Even if let's say Derek White's contract did match up perfectly, I'm not sure you'd even do that deal because it doesn't necessarily address what your most pressing need is, which is to add some size in that front court. Now that your best, most athletic big is going to be out for at least a month, and your best stretch big to help alleviate some of the minutes of your veteran big is going to be out for most of the season. So I think Jay, more than anything else, it's just really bad timing for him to get back to Boston. But if you're just talking pure talent and fitting in and all those type of tangibles, Jay's the guy. He'd be perfect for what they need.
And Gary always talks about the Celtics needing someone with that dog in them. I think Jay would be perfect for that. The memory is
Jay got a lot of dog.
They were getting cheered, and like moments later, we have a Twitter rant from Jay in all caps.
With his best game of the season.
Right.
We were just like, wait, Jay is like
not messing with him.
Nah, he was amazing in that game. And the thing I like about Jay is he's pretty, straight no chaser. about how he feels and what he's thinking. And you respect that. And I think the Celtics, and I think this kind of piggybacks off a point that Gary's made many times about having veterans who can come in and not just play, but have a presence about him. Jay has a presence about him, and having already been here, he's a guy that these players know and respect, and they understand his journey and how tough he has had to be in order to get where he's at. So, again, he would be great for this team, but I just don't think they have the right kind of assets to ship out and bring him in and it not be a significant, reshuffling of the deck for them where they don't know what the hell kind of hand they'll have once the cards are dealt. So.
We really made it through an entire offseason that had something to talk about every week, guys. Look at us.
I'm excited. Corey's excited. Gary's like, whatever.
No, we did a good job.
He's still salty. He's still salty about that Cal loss in South Bend. Which, by the way, Gary, I'm gonna say it for you, Gary. I'm gonna say it for you. Y'all got robbed. To quote the poet DeAndre Jordan, I've been robbed.
Yeah, it was a tough
Thank you for your what? He's the word.
It was a tough one.
If you're looking to sponsor a job post for your small business, you can go to Indeed.com/A-list. Do you two have anything we should be looking forward to before we hit Media Day, Celtics Media Day?
Ready to roll. Let's get it going.
Just ready to roll. We'll see what happens this week. There's be some stuff breaking this week.
Okay. He said, stay tuned, y'all. For Gary Washburn and H. Rod Blakely, I'm Kwani Lunis. Thanks for listening to the A-List podcast. The A-List podcast is powered by Indeed. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/A-List.